Well, three well-known private colleges in South Africa could be forced to shut down. The Department of Higher Education is considering cancelling the registration of Damelin City Varsity and ICESA City Campus after they failed to meet the required rules and standards. The department says the move is meant to protect students and ensure that colleges operate legally and responsibly. For this, I'm now joined by Professor Ahmed Bawa from the Johannesburg Business School. Prof, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on this afternoon. It's the public hand of government, to others it seems weighing heavy on the private sector. What is at the center of this particular decision, and is it justified?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for having me. And I think we have to start, at the point where we say that private higher education is now a very important part of the higher education landscape in South Africa. Something like 30% of students now in the South African system are in private higher education. And it plays a really vital role in ensuring that we sort of approximate, the targets that were set out in the NDP for participation of young South Africans in higher education. Having said that, there's also a responsibility on government to make sure that the young South Africans who are in the private higher education sector are protected, are protected from scams, are protected from poor teaching and learning, protected from dysfunctional institutions and so on. And I think it's in that light that you have to consider this. I mean, these three institutions, according to evidence that has been presented to the department, by the department at least of higher education, is that they've been derelict in providing the necessary kind of regulatory documentation that is required of private higher education institutions to remain registered as institutions.
Yeah.
And I think more importantly, I should also mention that the Council on Higher Education, which operates in a very independent fashion, it has something called the Higher Education Quality Council, that they, in fact, are also in the process of deregistering, de-accrediting the programs offered by these institutions.
Yeah.
So there are major problems, it seems. Yeah.
Well, why the leniency, though? I mean, for example, if we look at this particular round, they would not have submitted their statutory annual reports of 2024. They were given an extension to June 2024, given an even longer one to 6th of June 2025. Still not complying. Why has government been so lenient on this institution? Is it because of what you said initially, that they still pretty much play a critical role in meeting those targets and bringing people into higher education?
Yeah. Well, when I said private higher education, I didn't mean these three institutions in particular. I meant the whole sector. There are about 250 or 260,000 students in that sector now. But these three institutions, first of all, there were literally hundreds of complaints from students about non-compliance in many different ways. So that's the one thing. The second thing is that there are, in fact, students who are in the pipeline. So the department has to be very careful that it doesn't jeopardize those students. So there has to be some very careful sort of redirecting of students and so on, because what you don't want to do is jeopardize the students who've already paid for their education and so on. So I think the department really errs on the side of being careful, and so sort of gives them the leeway to respond to the requirements. And by the way, that's required of the law.
Yeah.
That the government doesn't just simply shut them down, but that it goes through a process of engagement with them regarding their registration requirements.
Now, you mentioned that it's to protect the students. I mean, how are the students protected in this instance? Because, I mean, if you look at the timing, some of them probably have already applied, they've already put in their deposits, and now they are told, some 7,000 of them who make up the the enrollment for these 3 institutions, that these institutions are going to be deregistered?
Yeah, I think there'll have to be an engagement with other parts of between the department and other parts of the private higher education system, and these 3 institutions, of course, to work out how those students are catered for. There is capacity in the rest of the private higher education system to take on additional students. So that's that's the process that will have to unfold, it seems to me. And I just want to emphasize, that the more important that sector becomes, the more important it is that they are also regulated in fashions that regulate the public higher education system. And we are very fortunate in South Africa that all post-school education, or even basic education, is subjected to quality assurance, so that we have these quality assurance bodies like the Council on Higher Education and the QCTO, and of course Umalusi. So these 3 bodies really do play a vital role in ensuring that the quality of our education is at a good level. The experience in other parts of the world where that isn't the case is that you have chaos. A good example of that was India, where they had hundreds of thousands of institutions. Many of them really providing students with very, very poor education.
So this decision, Prof, you're saying is also good for the protection of the integrity of these qualifications. I mean, as you put it, the Council of Higher Education is still also going to do its own work and I suppose make its own move in this regard. The minister is merely coming at the administrative and legal end of things.
Correct. That's absolutely correct. And of course, the Council of Higher Education will advise the minister to de-accredit. So sorry, the Higher Education Quality Council of the CHE will de-accredit the qualifications, but the CHE will then advise the minister to deregister. So even if those institutions had submitted the documentation that was required, the annual financial statements and so on, there would have been this other hurdle for them, which is being undertaken by the CHE.
Prof, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on. Professor Ahmed Bawa from the Joburg Business School there, responding to the decision by the minister to issue a statement of intent to say, I want to deregister these particular institutions. They are given 10 days to make their representations. Thereafter, the minister will make the final decision. But we're hearing also that the Council on Higher Education is also making its move as far as protecting the integrity of the qualifications that are coming from those particular institutions.